Welcome to The Act of Coaching, the podcast from Ag Leadership. We're a leadership and performance coach training company focused on developing exceptional leadership coaches for modern times. My name is Phil Askew, and each week on this show, I'll be joined by a member of our brilliant alumni, putting a voice to their very own hero's journey story. Our hope is that listening in to real-world stories of everyday people who have chosen coaching as a vocation will serve to demystify things and help you decide if this incredible vocation is something that calls to you too. So with that, let's meet this week's guest. Sarah, thank you so much for being on our podcast, The Act of Coaching. I'm really thrilled to have you here.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here.
As you may know, this podcast is something which we cooked up so that we could have conversations with incredible alumni who have been through the ACT Leadership Coach Training Program. I wanted to have conversations with alumni so that I could hear like the hero's journey. I could hear hear who they were behind the training. Like we know we've got some great coach training, but what I think would be really interesting for the everyday public so that they can make a decision if they want to get a coach or if they want to train to be a coach themselves would be to hear the stories about regular folk who've trained to be coaches with ACT. So this is the conversation that we're going to be having. And I always kick off by saying, if you have an understanding of your target audience, your niche sometimes scares people, that word. It feels a little bit like, oh my goodness, I don't know my niche.
Narrow and small,
Yeah, exactly, But if you have an indication of that or a sense of that, then now's the time to share it. Who is it you work with and what do you help them resolve?
That's a really interesting question. The way I define my niche or my people is that I'm interested in working with folks who are really passionate about what they do, right? Whatever work they are drawn to or currently doing, it's their hard work, right? They want to make an impact of some sort, and that is what's brought them to their job where they show up every day. And it's something that is grinding on them and is burning them out. So many of us who are involved in passion work are up against huge obstacles, societal obstacles, financial obstacles, etc., that make the work we do and that we love really hard and often not sustainable. And so I'm really passionate about helping those folks to remove some obstacles and make the work easier in places they do have control. So a lot of my clients are medical practitioners, right? In the United States, especially working in medicine and in our medical system is incredibly challenging. Family practitioners, for instance, have some of the highest suicide rates of any profession, including the military. So it is just heartbreaking work, and yet these folks can't imagine doing anything else. So they're caught between a rock and a hard place. How do I keep doing the work I love and the work that I find meaningful and also sustain my own mental health and my mental well-being? And so those are the folks that's my niche, so to speak. Those folks.
Wow, it's incredibly clear. Incredibly clear. My niche is helping purpose-driven people, much like you're describing, actually, purpose-driven people, but more, for me, it's more coaches and founders who are doing wonderful things in the world, launching businesses and starting movements. And they struggle with the very similar things.
Really? Yeah. You can't imagine. I work with equestrian professionals, like folks whose job it is to teach riding, to train horses, etc. And they're up against similar obstacles. Entrepreneurs, also veterinarians, they're all kind of against these similar obstacles.
So that's amazing. It sounds like you have different demographics or like different areas of people that you're serving, but it sounds, which I always think is a great idea, you're helping them in a very similar way. So you're helping with the challenges that they're facing, but they just happen to be from different backgrounds.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the challenges are similar, and there are things we can control and there's things we can't control. And so the work we do is about understanding what is in our control to change and how do we empower ourselves to make those changes, and what's out of our control. What do we need to accept and learn to work with?
And that's a fascinating area as well, isn't it? Because there's this phrase that a coach said to me once, or a coach trainer said to me once, which is, if it moves, you can coach it.
Yeah.
So if it's sentient, you can coach it.
Yeah.
And what I love about what you're saying there is what you're helping people do is it's almost like have awareness of what it is that they can control.
Yeah.
And when they are in a territory where they can control it, bringing in those coaching skills and those coaching tools to be able to enable them to do it effectively and in alignment with their values is what you help them do. And to maybe release the tense grasp that they might have on those things that they feel like they should be able to control but can't.
Right. And how much wasted energy is there?
Oh, that's amazing. Which probably leads to burnout and probably leads to overwhelm, yeah?
Totally. Absolutely.
I'd imagine in the medical profession where they're taught to have all the right answers, and sometimes it's life and death, isn't it?
It's often life and death, yeah.
Wow.
And I have a friend who works in corporate, and she would often say to people like, look, we need to just relax a little bit. We're not saving babies here. And I was like, yeah, but my clients are. They're like, they're saving people. And so the stakes are incredibly high. And there are still things that we can do to help release some of the energy that we spend overthinking, worrying about the future that hasn't arrived, perseverating on the past. Like they're understanding where to set boundaries. There's so many places that we can work to navigate, to remove some of the obstacles and navigate the space in a way that saves you some energy and saves you some sanity.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. That's a great strap line. Saves you energy and sanity. Come and work with me.
Exactly.
It's really clear as well. So it always is heartening for me to hear when a coach has such a clear, identifiable niche and target audience, because then that target audience is able to find you. You become a beacon for them. You get to work with those people you love, and they get the results they're looking for,
Absolutely.
That's a
and I
beautiful
got to work with medical practitioners at their early stages in their career, to medical students, residents, and start to teach them some of the skills they'll need so they're not at the precipice of burnout when they come to me. They're actually able to integrate these skills early in their career so that they don't get to that point. And I also work with mid-career professionals that are really in a struggle point.
So that's interesting too, isn't it? Because I think if we show up as a coach and we shine a light on the fact that I work with people who are close to burnout, then they may not even have the capacity to work with us in a sort of naturally creative, resourceful and whole way. Yes. It's more the case of, I need some recovery or I need some therapy. It's gone beyond the realm of that. So it sounds like you're helping them do the sort of preemptive, nourishing work in order to keep them out of the red zone.
Exactly. Because once you're in the red zone, it feels like all is lost.
Yeah.
And so when I have engaged with people who are in that red zone, I was working with a restaurateur who was just coming out of COVID, and she was just feeling like, there's nothing you can help me with because the things that are stacked up against me are not things that are in my control. And so therefore, what could coaching possibly do? And so she was already beyond the stage where she was able to be creative and flexible. She was in despair. And I think often when we're in that place, we do need a break. We need to be able to step back and step out and take a breath. And so I really want to catch folks just as they're either preemptively, right? Let's learn some skills that will help us not get there. Or when you're just starting to feel like something's not right here. Right. Not wait until you're like, I can't imagine any other solution other than quitting.
Wow.
That's a really hard place to be.
It's great you're in the world doing what you do.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So I'm really curious as well, like in this podcast of hearing the backstory of the alumni and all the fantastic people that I'm talking to. Like with that in mind, like what was early life like for you growing up? Did you get a sense that you were always interested in people and psychology or that sort of thing?
Yeah. So, I kind of grew up in a very quintessential New England suburban family, a younger brother, 2 parents, and I think that without really knowing it or naming it, one of my parents' values was helping people, right? My dad grew up in a very working class family in Canada and received a lot of kind of angel support that led him to be able to go to college and have a career and that he never imagined he would have when he was a kid, right? He grew up working construction and he kind of thought that's what he would do. And so I think because he had that experience, for both my parents, like helping and caring for people was just what you did. It just was like that before, just what you do. And so I was raised with this sense of that's just what you do. You help people, you leave the world a better place than you found it. That's just what you do. And I think although my parents' intentions were always good, they didn't necessarily have the skill set to help in the way that was really effective all the time. And so I was really blessed to be raised by people who took care of all of the basic needs. I was really able to not have to think, what job am I going to have that's going to make me the most money? So I was really able to think about how do that higher level purpose work? What do I want to do in this life that's going to be helpful and leave the world a better place than I found it and affect change in people? And I was always the person in high school and middle school who was the person that people wanted to talk to, right? Like they wanted to sort through their problems. And I thought that the way to help was to give advice, right? And so I always knew that was what I wanted to be in a helping profession. I dabbled in teaching for a while, realized I hated making lesson plans, but I just wanted to sit around and talk to the kids, right? And help them with their problems and chat at recess. And then I discovered, oh, there's this world that that's what I could do. I could sit and chat with kids and support them. So I eventually went to social work school first in my 20s and I have a master's in social work, was an outpatient therapist, with children and families. When my own children came along, I became a school counselor so that I could match their schedule and really loved working with families and teachers. And the kids were kind of the added bonus. But what I began to notice the longer I was in school systems was that the people who really needed the help and support were the leaders. They struggled in such loneliness to do the right thing for the families in their schools, for the teachers, for the kids. And I just ended up being the person who they would call, right? Oh my God, how do I write this email? How do I talk to these parents? How do I navigate this teacher who's having a challenge? And what I learned was that if I could help the leaders, then I could impact so many more people. Because if they were doing their job more effectively, then it all went more smoothly. In 2019, not knowing that there was a pandemic on its way, I quit my school-based jobs and opened my own business, thinking like, I'm going to do some coaching. And I have a degree in social work. I'm a therapist. I know how to do this. And as I began to realize in the conversations was like, I knew how to be a therapist, but I didn't know how to be a coach. And so I did not want to be one of those people that just hangs a shingle and says like, I'm a coach.
Yeah, change the business card. Yeah.
Exactly. Because I'm very committed to doing evidence-based work. So I know the evidence will change. I know that our sense of best practices will change over time, but I want to know that the work I'm doing is the best practice that we know right now. So I'm doing the best I can with what I've got right now. And so in order to do that, I felt like I needed to really learn what coaching was.
Yeah.
And be able to really purely study the field.
Yeah. That's amazing. What a journey. Yeah. Together.
Yeah.
And it's a very common journey, really, isn't it? Yeah. It's because coaching hasn't been around a great deal of time.
Yeah.
Like I know a lot of therapists who've not retrained to be coaches, but they've added on or bolted on the modality of coaching to their skills and abilities as well. Yeah. And so now they can handle all sorts of different kind of clients and people who come their way. Totally. When you were looking for a program, of course, we're always harping on about how important it is to be certified, because in this unregulated world, unlike therapy, in this unregulated world of coaching, like you were saying, anybody can just change their name or change their business card and suddenly they're a coach, in inverted commas. And so How did you go about searching for like a quality course, and what was your decision-making process that led you to
Yeah.
ACT?
So just to back up a little bit, part of the reason I wanted to go into coaching specifically was that the people I wanted to serve didn't want to spend time understanding their trauma, looking at their family history. They really wanted to be forward thinking, action oriented, and efficient with the change they needed to make. And I knew I needed to be a coach, and I knew I needed to acquire some coaching skills to help guide them in that way. Because as a therapist, it's a much different trajectory, right? And
Yeah.
I knew I had things that I would bring from my training as a therapist and my experience as a therapist, but I knew I needed a different skill set. And because I am very much evidence-based and I'm married to a medical practitioner as well, we are very much, and I was a researcher, I want to know what the data shows, right? I
Of
don't
course.
want to just do something because it feels right. And so I was looking for programs that were evidence-based, and ACT really is. I also was a neuroscience major undergrad, so the fact that ACT really leans on the neuroscience data to understand why we're using the techniques we're using was very appealing to me. And then icing on the cake was I just adored Mike the minute I met him. I was like, oh, yes, I want to be trained by this person.
By the way, being one of our co-founders. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
The founder, one of the founders. And, the first time I got on the phone with him to talk about the program, he was both like honest and genuine, and also not, like he had his stuff together, right? Like I remember he was like hopping off the Peloton because he had just done bedtime, and like, but at no point did you feel like, oh my God, I'm intruding on him. You just felt like, oh yeah, he's being really clear and honest about where he is. And he's got his stuff together, and I don't have to take care of him. And I was like, yes, this is who I want to train with. Someone who's professional, but who's open and honest, and really in touch with all of the ups and downs of the human life.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, that's so nice. And I think that's something that I'm really proud of that we do. Erin and Mike, the co-founders, show their faces, and they're regularly jumping on webinars, and they're not too above it to be in the back room now.
Definitely
it's like,
not.
we want to normalize coaching. We want to bring it to the masses too, and to have it be human. This is not about I'm better than you. This is not about come and buy our fantastic course and 50% off if you join in the next week kind of thing.
No, you never feel like you're getting the hard sell. And it's just that there's a level of humility about the way they work, which is really important to me. So they're doing the best they can with what they know right now. And they're really humble about learning and growing and evolving and changing. So it was a no-brainer. I looked at a couple of their programs, which looked very legit and like good programs. And I probably would have gotten good training, but there was something about.
It's a real heart-head combination choice, I find, isn't it, with a coach training course? And asking previous alumni or alumni from different courses what they thought of it is always a great way of doing it. If you ever get the chance to do that, it's always a good thing to do, just to qualify things. There's no harm in asking questions. So I know that me doing these podcasts with alumni, I know that people are just jumping on to have these conversations, which is wonderful. No, they weren't in short supply when I was reaching out for people to talk about ACT and talk about their experience. So it bodes well that we're doing something very right. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. If your alumni are behind you. And I also wanted a program of very professional people. So I had trained at a very good social work school. I had over 10 years of experience in the field of mental health. I wanted to go in with other folks who, weren't always all therapists, but who were equally professional and capable. Because I wanted to be pushed, right? Like I wanted to show up and really be pushed to learn and to be at my growing edge the whole time. I didn't want to just check a box and go off and get certified.
Yeah, exactly. And I think one of the main components for having this be a really powerful course is the fact that we work with our own content. We bring the real, as opposed to let's role play this. I'll be the wife and you be the husband. Is actually no, we're bringing real stuff and we get real insights when we're working together. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. I remember even watching our trainers be coached. Like they allowed us to coach them, which was like both intimidating and also awe-inspiring.
And that's the beauty is the range of the ACT coaching material as well, isn't it? In that, yeah, like I was saying, emotion comes up and that's absolutely fine. We don't go, whoa, we don't go there.
No, we hold space for that. And they teach people how to hold space for that, which is really important and not easy to do.
Yeah. And it can scare a lot of people, I think, when emotion comes up, because we feel like, oh, this is therapeutic or trauma territory. I can't go here as a coach. But actually, emotion's emotion, right?
And I think because I am a therapist also, I lean into that in a very particular way, but I know that's where real change happens, right? If my clients aren't feeling the feelings, they don't always have to be crying, but if they're not in touch with the emotion that is associated with the struggle, it's all thinking work.
Yeah, exactly. Theoretical.
Right, exactly. And that's not where real change is going to happen.
Jumping in now, so you did the training with ACT, and how do you find that the tools and the training that you picked up from the course impact your everyday life, both in terms of your work and also in private life as well, if that's okay to share? Because obviously,
absolutely.
Wherever we go, we take ourselves with us. And so I'm wondering how those skills of listening and powerful questions and things like that show up in your life.
Yeah. As a therapist, I work with such intimate details of people's lives that I would bring my deep listening skills to my friendships and my marriage and with my relationships with my children, but they wouldn't want me to be their therapist. So I wouldn't employ a lot of those skills, right? Where coaching is about powerful questions, but it's really about sitting in curiosity. And so bringing those skills to my personal relationships has been really powerful, because I don't feel compelled to have advice or to know the answer. I'm able to really sit in curiosity and ask more powerful questions that then allow people to share with me how I can be helpful, how I can be supportive to them. So often I will just say, what would feel supportive right now? What would feel helpful? Or tell me more about that experience you just had, versus trying to give them advice about it or mentor them through something.
It's incredible, isn't it? It's a learned way that goes beyond just stepping into the context of being a coach. It's once you realize how to listen well, and when I say it's like spacious without queuing up a clever answer before the person's spoken.
Yes.
I don't think you can ever listen the same way again to someone. Yeah. Fantastic.
And there's a level of analysis that I'm able to let go of too. I'm not trying to have that level of diagnostic analysis when I'm in my coaching frame of mind. Really listening for where could this conversation go deeper.
So I love that you have the combination of the therapeutic background as well as the coaching. I think it's really fantastic to have all those tools in the belt.
Yeah, it was really fun. And I was lucky enough to have Robin as one of my teachers because she has the same background. So she was really able to push me in ways that, we're unique. Because she could see, that's when she's employing her therapeutic tools opposed to coaching skills. So that was really helpful to have her.
Yeah, because I suppose we have these default patterns and channels that have been carved out on those things which we've practiced for years. That we kind of default to, maybe with an unconscious bias. It's like, I'm going that way because that's what I've always done and I know it works. But when we're learning these new ways of being, and it's great that our trainers, a lot of them therapeutic backgrounds as well, have a brilliant ability of saying, okay, so that's one way of doing it, but how about practicing this way without any reprimand or anything like that, of course, but it's reflections and changing tack and just seeing how it works.
The trainers have such a broad range of background and experience that they're able to meet many of the students where they're at.
Yeah, that's amazing. And if you had maybe one or two just like highlights from the course, maybe something that kind of you were like, aha, that's an interesting thing. Not to put you on the spot, but what do you remember? What stands out for you? Oh, it could be a long list too.
It was, there was a lot of things. I learned a lot of things. I think the thing that I still work hard to practice and was really a novel experience for me was asking people to bottom line what they're saying and interrupting them. Because as a therapist, I would never interrupt someone. It's just not what you do. And when I like to learn to do that as a coach and to do it effectively was something that I had not expected to learn and did not expect it to be so hard. But also I didn't expect how effective it would be. Like when the skill was first introduced, I was like, you've got to be kidding me. There is no way. First of all, I'm a New Englander, right? We're very proper and we don't interrupt people. My husband's from New York and his family interrupts each other all the time.
Forget about it. Yeah.
And they're like yelling over each other. It's not my scene. But I would never interrupt someone. And so it was like, I really had to learn that it was how to use it effectively and then learn how effective it was to really help people to and learn and to teach them. Like I might interrupt you and it's not because I'm trying to be rude or that I'm bored by you. It is, I am trying to help you to really consolidate your thinking and be efficient and use this time efficiently.
There's this great phrase where if people are talking about the thing, they're telling a good story about it. We call it like circling around Heathrow or circling around whatever your local airport is. It's like bottom line, bring it in. Okay, what's really here?
Yeah. Usually when people are talking around something or they're really digging into the details, they're avoiding what's really happening for them or what's really coming up for them. And it can take quite a bit.
And it's vulnerable, isn't it? People don't come to coaches with just light topics. Sometimes they do, but pretty soon they see that actually these things are really fundamental in their lives and that that's just a surface tip of the iceberg thing. And then suddenly you get to the root of the issue. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Fabulous. We could talk forever. That's the thing. Yeah. I'm trying to keep these under 30 minutes, but it's fascinating.
I just looked up and like, what right here?
Yeah, I know. It's incredible, isn't it? I may finish with just asking you the question, actually. Given all that you said so far, like with a magic wand, if you could project into the future, quite a coachy question, I realize, when you project into the future, like what is the high dream for yourself? Like in 5 years' time with a magic wand, 10 out of 10, ultimate outcome, where do you see yourself?
Yeah, I would love to be focusing the majority of my time working with medical practitioners and balancing that between teaching and working with new professionals, so like people in training, and balancing that with also working with mid-career professionals and doing some preventative work. Really, that's where I want to be able to feel like I'm having an impact is on the training programs so that they are integrating this work more significantly so that it's not just the few of us who are out there doing this work, but really an industry-wide, like really supporting an industry-wide shift in how we train medical practitioners and how we teach them to take care of themselves.
And it's just coming to mind, so I'm going to ask anyway. How do you suppose those people that you work with at that time will be talking about you?
Oh. Wow.
And about the work that you've done together.
That's a hard question for a New Englander who was raised to not pat herself, not break her arm, pat herself on the back, I think was the phrase my father used to use. I think I would love to know that the folks I work with have a voice in their head which holds them with deep compassion. And if I can help create, if a part of that voice is mine, that would feel like success to me. Like it doesn't need to be me, but it needs to be that voice that when they're really being hard on themselves, that compassionate voice that arises, I've helped cultivate. Did that answer your question?
Do you notice the resistance to taking ownership of the positive impact?
darling.
But I get it, though. I get it, and I hear that. That's amazing. And I'm sure those people will be saying that and thanking you for shining a light on those things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Absolutely.
What a fantastic conversation this has been. So just to wrap things up, finally, how can people find you? What's the best way of people connecting with you?
Yes. So I have a website. It's super easy. It's www.sarahcarlan.com. And there is a opportunity there to sign up for a breakthrough session where we can have a conversation about coaching, about what kind of coaching I offer, some of the transformations that you can expect, and what is your responsibility to show up with so that those transformations are possible. And then we can also look at our pricing list. I'm very committed to making this work accessible. So one of my values is that I have a pricing structure that meets people where they're at.
That's amazing. So important. So that it's not an elitist profession. We really don't want it to be that at ACT. And we want to normalize this as much as possible.
Yeah.
That's amazing, Sarah. Thank you so much for being on this episode. It's been a real pleasure. As I say, I could have spoken for ages about this. Fabulous.
It's really fun. Really fun.
You're doing amazing work, and
Thank you,
all the
Phil.
best to you. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. This was really fun. I appreciate it.
Take care.
Thanks, you too.
If you'd like to train to be a professional coach, why don't you check out actleader.com. That's www.actleader.com. On our website, we have a ton of information that can really help you get clarity on the exact right course for you. We also have articles that go into detail about the different aspects of coaching, how to apply it, and why it's a wonderful thing. Look forward to seeing you soon.